Energy calculations, what's right for you, part two. In our previous video, we talked about the two different types, the prescriptive method and the performance method. In our last video, we focused on the prescriptive method and how difficult it would be for many houses to pass. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the performance method, the really easy way to get past your energy calculations. If you like what we're talking about today, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Go ahead and give us that thumbs up. And also click the notifications button and select the bell at the top that says all. This way you'll be notified of any videos that we have up and coming or courses. All right, so let's get started. I'm Tom Platania with ProCalc University. And today we're going to focus on the performance method of energy calculations for your home. Now, a lot of times the HVAC design company will perform these because a lot of the information that is required in the energy calculations is a big part of doing the load calculations and the duct design and things of that nature. So it makes a lot of sense for the HVAC design company to do them. It makes it very easy. If you do the energy calculations first without knowing the type of equipment, the size of equipment, the efficiency and BTU capacity of the equipment, it's going to be a little difficult to have accuracy. And what will happen is when the building inspectors come out, they're going to notice the difference between the load calculations and the energy calculations, and they'll fail you. So let's not get you stuck into that position. Let's make sure it's done right. So let's talk about the performance. The prescriptive method we talked about in previous video is very intricate, and you can't pass by having multiple things wrong and a bunch of other things right. Every individual item was focused on, and it itself, the windows must pass by themselves, the air conditioner must pass by himself. But with performance method, I kind of tell people, my team and whatnot, to make it easy. It's like having this hat. And if we have more pluses than minuses in the hat, the house passes. And that's kind of what it is, which makes it a little easier as a homeowner and whatnot, not to have to overspend on super duper windows or super duper air conditioning system. What it allows them to do is, if they can't quite get the windows that meet the perfect code because they're just way too expensive, they may be able to offset that slight negative with something maybe a little less expensive that they can increase, like the air conditioning system. So let's say, for instance, we can't quite hit the code with the windows, but we can go with a 16 SEER heat pump system and have a duct leakage test done. That will more than, well, depending on how bad the windows are, that will more than compensate for the discrepancy in the windows. And that's what's great about the performance method. And at ProCalcs, we do HVAC designs. We do, I don't know, anywhere from 100 to 200 designs per month. And out of that, in the state of Florida, we do work all over the world. In the state of Florida, about 99% of every house we do must use the performance method. Otherwise, it won't pass. Because the air conditioner's in the garage, the air conditioner's in the attic, the ductwork's not in conditioned space, the windows don't meet code, the water heater doesn't meet code. But with the performance method, it allows us to take a little from here, take a little from there to overcome the discrepancies. So let's take a look at the form. Now, yesterday's form on the prescriptive method was form 402, which is also table 402. If you go back to that video, you'll see where we showed you how to go to the building code department, ICC, and look up the energy conservation book and chapter 4 for residential. And all this information's right in there. If you like to read and you're good at that stuff, or even if you don't like to read and you just want to look at the pictures, there's tables there that tell you what you need. But let's go and look at the form 405, which is the performance method, and show you how much easier this is. Let's take a look at this here. So right here, this is form 405, and I have this set up for the same way that we did the other house. It was the exact same house. This is an example from one of the softwares that we use, Energy Gauge, in the state of Florida. to perform the energy calculations. And they give us a little example home so that if you're trying to learn how to do it, you can go in and look at that home and kind of see, okay, how did this house pass? It's a 2,000 square foot house. How did it pass? Now, in the performance method, the prescriptive method, this may not pass, but in the performance method, it easily passes. So what we're doing is we're looking at all the individual items. We're looking at the window values. Now here, 0.40 and 0.25, that is what the building code requires in the prescriptive method. But if I were to change these to make these higher, maybe this U factor was a 1.04, because in South Florida, you really don't need. I mean, this is Jacksonville, what they have this, which it needs a little bit more, but the U factor is not as big of a deal. So I can take this U factor and bump it from 0.4 to 1.04. Now, it's not going to meet prescriptive method, but it's not going to make a huge difference. And where I can go is see how I have this 19, I have a SEER 2 14.3. Now, SEER 2, if you watch one of the other videos we did in the podcast, is a new thing that's coming up January 1st, 2023, where all manufacturers are required to recalculate all their equipment based on more real world conditions. So don't forget to go back, ProCalcs University on YouTube, and watch that video, or as well as you can go to procalcsuniversity.com and you can listen to all the podcasts that we've done so that you have information about that. But if our windows didn't make it, we could actually go over here and then just increase the efficiency of our air conditioning system. And those points, not guaranteed, those points will help us. Now, where we get these points is it's all based on a reference home, and everything in the house gets a set of points. So when we scroll down, we have a page that's called the EPL. Now here's the EPL card, and this is the card, the paper, that actually stays with the house after we're done the energy calculations and we turn them into the builder, the architect, HVAC company, or homeowner. This is the one that stays. And this is when the builder comes out, the building inspector comes out. He's going to be looking at this EPL card as well as some of the other documents I'll show you in a minute to confirm what's on here is accurate to what the house was actually built with. Now, you'll notice up here there's a performance index. This value goes from 0, which is a house that uses no energy, all the way to 100. 100.01 or 0.1 fails. House is not energy efficient enough. Anything 100 or less, the house will pass the energy calculations. But if you're trying to reduce your energy consumption, you want this as low as possible. So just meeting the bare minimum code, obviously if cost is a factor, is not going to do you any justice. If you can afford to spend a little bit more money, in the long run, it's going to save you. Meaning, even though your windows, maybe you don't have these values. We have some builders and architects that use windows with the U factor in South Florida of a 1.04. Now, outside of Florida, in climate zones 3, 4, 5, 6, you couldn't even get away with that because the U factor is much more valuable in the more northern states. Down in South Florida and southern Texas, it means very little. But if that value were to increase, because it doesn't mean a lot, you don't get a lot of points for it in this climate zone 1 and 2. You can still offset that by going to, as we showed you, a slightly different efficiency. So maybe we go to a SEER 2 15.5 or 16, and that offset for the higher efficiency air conditioning system will allow us to overcome the slight negative on the windows. Now, that doesn't mean you can just take the air conditioning system and bring it to 16 SEER and increase your window values and you already know it's going to pass. No. When it comes to performance, it's kind of a give and take. The prescriptive method, which, yes, it's going to be more expensive to build a house, it's going to make your house much more energy efficient. And supposedly, if you own the house until the day you die, you're going to probably save money over the long haul. But the average house, 7.5 years is what the average person lives in a house when they build it. They either sell it for profit, they move to different states, they upgrade, they downgrade, they do different things. 7.5, and I know because I'm a licensed realtor, so I kind of keep track of those things, at least in Florida. Let's put it that way. So you have to be careful. So with the performance method, it does allow you to be able to pick and choose some things. Well, I want a much higher efficiency air conditioning system, but I don't really care as much about the water heater. I don't want to have to stick with a 50-gallon. And you like my water, you can tell I'm from North New Jersey. Not water, it's water. But you might. I like to take long hot showers, so I want a 70, 80-gallon water heater. Well, we know what's going to happen. You're going to produce a lot of extra energy consumption that's not going to help you pass. So I need to find something else in my house that I can increase. And for me, that would be the air conditioning system. If I was to build a house, I would put a 80-gallon water heater in, and I would have a 20, 21, 22 SEER air conditioning system in my home. So I would have a heat pump because, my wife likes it to be a little cooler. So, or I like it to be a little warmer. She likes it to be cooler. So it allowed me to turn some heat on and still be energy efficient in Florida, but it would give me a lot of extra points. Plus, I would also pay the $200 or $300 to have the duct leakage test, which will also. So you can see all the different things that it looks at. It looks at the windows, and if you had any skylights, it looks at the type of floors. If you had a floor that was over a unconditioned space, it's going to take that into consideration. What are your wall types? So if I have an R13 here, if I'm building the house, it's a frame house, and I'm building it with 2x4, I really can't go much more than R13 unless I'm going to use an expensive type of insulation that has a higher R value per inch. I'm pretty much maxed out with 2x4. Now, if I have to go more than that, then I'm going to have to go to a 2x6 wall. Well, what's going to be the cost to go to 2x6 wall? Because I don't want to spend an extra $15,000, $20,000 on my windows to get them down this low. So if going to 2x6 allows me to go to an R19 wall, get my added insulation value that I need to offset going to less efficient windows, that's an option. And that's stuff that if you work with your HVAC design company like ProCalcs, you can get with us ahead of time, and we can give you some options and say, hey, if you don't want to go with super efficient windows, here are some options. You go with this, this, and this, or you go with this and this. And then that gives you the option to go back to your builder or your architect and say, hey, here's the three options. What would be the different cost? If I have to go with code efficient windows to get this to pass, can I go with higher efficiency or less efficient windows? And what's going to cost me to use 2x6 instead of 2x4? Okay, well, the labor shouldn't be that much different. It's going to be the cost of materials, but get with your architect and builder, and they'll be able to give you a better understanding. So with performance, now any new house that you build in most states now are going to require a blower door test. And that's a form that is part of the performance method or the prescriptive method. You can see here residential prescriptive or performance or ERI method. But what this is they go in and they put a big blower door and they can test to see how leaky your house is. And then they'll document and say, hey, you can't be any higher than 7. What is the house at? And then for an inexpensive cost, if you need to get extra points, this is not mandatory unless you're using the prescriptive method. So in the performance method, you can do a duct leakage test, and the duct leakage test will tell you whether the ducts are too leaky or not, or where they need to be, and that'll get you extra points if it passes. Some of the other forms, and you can get access to these just by Googling and going to the building code, and they have all these forms on that page that I mentioned, I showed to you. Let's take a look at that right here. Remember the page we went to? We went to codes.iccsafe.org. We went to location. We picked our state. Where are you, Florida? Up here. We picked our state, and then when we got to our state, we went to energy conservation. And if you go down here, you'll have all the forms that you can look at and all the different forms that you can get into, just like what I'm showing you right here. Okay, so very important that you understand that. And then, here's the inspection reports. This is the different things. The inspection reports, the different things that they look at, are there spaces. This is kind of a checklist of what you can go through. Here's mandatory requirements. And again, all of this is found on that ICC website where you can go through and say, okay, what are they looking for? How do I know? Because this is what's going to be checked in the field by the builder, by the building inspector as well. Do all of these meet in the energy calculation? So performance method of calculation is a much easier, less restrictive way of doing energy calculations that could potentially save you money up front. But depending on what you do, it could cost you money down the road. So our next course that we're going to be talking about, this was number 2. First one was prescriptive method. This was performance method of energy calculations. The next course we're going to do is going to talk about the different software. Some of the software that we use, you have to purchase, and it can be pretty complex to use. But there is a software that in most states, except for Florida, California, and a couple other states, it's a program called ResCheck. It's free. It can be downloaded or used by the public for you to kind of play around. Now, you can't do your own energy calculations, but you might be able to figure it out to play around. And we're going to show you that in the next video. So everyone have an absolutely amazing day. Thanks for watching the video here at ProCalcs. Don't forget to go to procalcsuniversity.com to watch the podcasts, as well as you can go to the ProCalcs store. We have a lot of great tools and supplies and filters and things like that to help keep your HVAC system functioning well, but also to give you some added methods to help make your home more efficient. Have a blessed day.